If I'm supposed to speak, or why was the harmonium was put here?
To sing.
To sing.
We can have, yeah.
I just
If you
program me. What do you want me to do? Okay.
whatever.
Okay. I'll start first by chanting a little bit. Anyone here has chanted with us before? Please raise your hand if you have. Not many. How many of you are familiar with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Where have you heard it?
The first time I heard it in India itself.
In India?
Yeah. I've been to the Bangalore ISKCON temple.
Bangalore ISKCON temple. As a child?
Yeah.
I'll speak a little bit about chanting. Maybe first before I begin chanting. I was first introduced to chanting in 1972. Although I was definitely aware of different types of mantras that people were chanting long before that. But chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra was introduced to me when I first received one of the books of my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, in which he gave a lot of emphasis to its relevance, which I felt was very relevant to my life. Because I was a college student, but I was also a seeker of sorts. And I went to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst in 1970, 71. I didn't graduate. I left, but I didn't leave because of, I found Krishna consciousness. I left because at that particular time, definitely in the early 1970s, I felt that I was, at least myself, I'm not saying this is the path to follow, but I felt that I was programmed to go to college, but I didn't voluntarily choose it. And I thought I wanted to make a choice first. So that's why I chose to step away from university life. And you can't hear? A little bit closer to the microphone? Okay. You raised the mic. Okay. That's why I chose to step away from university life and explore what happened to be at that time interesting to me was Eastern philosophy. So that's why I was exposed to different types of mantras when I began exploring Eastern philosophy. And then I was introduced to chanting Hare Krishna in 1972 when I received Bhagavad Gita as it is. Of course, I saw it in another book. I think it was in 1970, but it wasn't really, it didn't really attract me. I saw it in a book called, I don't even know if it's still popular, by Ram Dass, called Be Here Now. Anyways, it was very popular in the 60s and 70s. And he introduced the mantra there, but didn't really give a more complete understanding. And I heard it chanted on, just so happened in 1971, on Joy Street, right here in Beacon Hill. I was working at that time, and I heard members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness passing by outside the window in the place where I was working. I was remodeling it was called then Pregnancy Counseling Service. But I was remodeling, and I remember very specifically leaning out the window and heckling the people who were walking by, chanting this absurd mantra. Little did I know at that time that I would be more completely introduced to the chanting after having read Bhagavad Gita as it is, at which time I began to see that chanting was very relevant to my life as far as a spiritual search. Many people, they speak about spiritual search. They try to actually pursue it and understand its relevance to them. Everybody, in some way or another, is looking for internal happiness and peace. I can't say, I don't think there's anybody who would try to avoid finding peace. It's not so easy to find these days. And so it became very relevant to me when it was introduced as a method for achieving peace. And I began chanting. As I said, in 1972, I visited a temple here. We previously had a temple in Alston on North Beacon Street. I visited there, and I was introduced to the chanting at that time by a member of the society who gave me mala, some beads, and said, "Why don't you try this? Try it." So I tried it. And I was living in Cape Cod at the time, working. I lived in a place called Manomet, near Whitehorse Beach in Plymouth. And I was working. I had a dog, I was a musician, and every morning I would go on the beach and I would chant on these beads. And as I said, it was a time in my life when I thought I needed more than just to be programmed, because after college I felt, well, I was being programmed, I want to make a choice. And then I felt, now I'm being programmed, I have to work, and I want to make a choice. I wanted to know, who am I? And so I could make my own choices very deliberately and understand that, yes, I'm doing this because I understand its purpose and its long-range benefit for my life. But when I started chanting, I began to explore horizons beyond what I felt was my objective that I wanted to accomplish in this life, because chanting, what it does, it opens up our higher self. And when one begins to understand a little bit more about the self, which is the elementary or basic teachings of Bhagavad Gita, of the soul and its eternality and its distinction between the soul and the body, then I began exploring broader horizons beyond what do I want to accomplish, not only for success in this life, but what do I want to accomplish as a spiritual being, spiritual soul. And the same aspiration for peace, of course, was naturally there. I don't think at any point in life anybody will reject the opportunity to find peace. But chanting opened that up, opened those horizons up to me, and I began to look at my life from a different perspective. And I'm not in any way suggesting that this is the method by which people can find and broaden their horizons, but what I specifically did, I entered into the temple and I began living a monastic life. But that's not required, and I came to understand that many years later, that I could have remained what I was doing. I could have, although I don't regret that I didn't remain what I was doing, but I could have. And chanting introduced to me an idea of who I am. Something that any sane person should really try to ask themselves. It's the beginning of spiritual life. Who am I? I was telling a group of people the other evening, speaking very, very elementary, basic principle that I'm not this body. everybody in India, they have a conception that I'm not this body, I'm spirit. But most Westerners don't have that conception. And I was telling them my own experience with one time I was speaking to my stepfather, and I was trying to understand how he was different from the body. And he was willing to engage in a little experiment with me. So I took advantage of the opportunity of his willingness, and I did something very, very basic, and I said to him, can you please point to your head? And he pointed to his head. And then I said, can you please point to your knee? He was very submissive, pointed to his knee. Point to your foot, he pointed to his foot. Point to your arm, pointed to his arm. And then I could begin to see, like, what's this all about? So I moved into the next stage. I said, can you point to your chest? He pointed to his chest. And I said, can you point to yourself? And he pointed to his chest. And then I said to him, no, you just said that's your chest. Why are you pointing there? Because that's, anybody asks you, who, when you point to yourself, most people, yeah, this is me. But why? Why do we point there? And so I said to him, no, you just pointed to your chest, point to yourself. Why are you pointing there? And he didn't know what to do, and then he thought for a minute, and he pointed to his foot with one hand, and he pointed to his head with the other hand. And then he said, all of it. I said, but no, that's your foot, and that's your head. And you already pointed to your foot and your head. Point to yourself. And at that point, he got frustrated and left the room. And it was too challenging for him to go beyond, to understand, at least at that point, as our experience is, most Westerners have a difficult time with the conception that I'm spiritual and this body is simply a temporary vehicle which is encasing the eternal spiritual soul along with the spirit, super soul within the heart. But one way to approach the soul is by this method, and another way to approach it is by understanding, well, if I'm not this body, I'm soul, then the next question that should be asked is, okay, then who am I? Who am I? I'm not, just to say I'm not this body, this is not, it's like asking me who am I, and I said, I'm not Donald Trump. No, that doesn't tell you who I am. I can go through a list of people saying who I'm not, but who am I? And there's some research involved to understand who am I, beyond just the not this body concept. So chanting is a way to go beyond the understanding that simply that I'm not this body, but it's to begin to understand who am I. And Jivera Surubhoira Krishnera Nichidas, which is in basic teaching, which says that the constitutional nature of every living being is he's an eternal servant of Krishna. And everyone by constitution is actually meant to serve. Service is there to our family, service is there to our friends, service is there to our society, service is there to our government leaders, service is there in so many respects. The government leaders are serving the citizens, and by serving the citizens, they get the votes from the citizens to obtain their positions, and in this way, there's a reciprocal service relationship between so many people in this world. But that's our constitutional nature, to serve. But if we simply serve according to the designation of the body without understanding the needs of satisfying the soul or the self, we're still missing something. Chanting, I discovered, opened my horizons to a future beyond just how to be successful in this life. And being successful in this life, there are many elements of success that everybody can aspire for. But if it neglects what do I want to accomplish at the end of this life, something's missing. Because anybody who has the least bit of intelligence will understand that life is temporary. Once in the Mahabharata, everyone I'm sure is familiar with the Mahabharata, there was a question that was presented to Maharaj Yudhisthira by Yamaraj. And he asked Maharaj Yudhisthira, can you tell me what is the most amazing thing? And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, Ahanyahani bhutani ganshanti yamalanyam. So the most amazing thing, that in this world, hundreds of millions of living entities are being sent to the kingdom of death. And those who are remaining are still thinking, I will live forever. Looking for permanent. Nothing can be more amazing than this. Broadening our horizons means how to live this life, to be successful in this life, but to actually achieve a greater success than just simply to accumulating the temporary pleasures of this life, the temporary assets of this life, and temporary relationships of this life, but actually achieving that connection with my eternal being, which has an eternal relationship with the Supreme. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, for one who is not connected to the Supreme, he can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there can be no possibility of peace. How can there be any happiness without peace? Simple, very basic concept. If there's no connection, then one can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there can be no possibility of peace. Chanting fills that vacuum. It's just something to add. It doesn't mean that everything else automatically has to be taken away. It's something to add. And that's how it was introduced to me. It was introduced to me here, add. And I had a particular experience. As I said, I was living on Cape Cod. I added the chanting with the mala, with my beads every morning. I used to go out on the beach with my dog. I had a Labrador retriever, and we used to have good times on the beach. I would throw the stick, and it's in her blood to go out and retrieve the stick in the water. I would throw the ball, she'd run in the water, bring the ball, and this was her life. And then when somebody introduced this chanting to me, I found that I had to utilize that time on the beach. Instead of always playing with my dog, I took the mala and I started walking on the beach with my dog, but chanting instead. Little did I know that my dog didn't appreciate that. And one day when I returned from Boston, I went to the temple. I walked into the house, and my dog was always there to greet me at the door. But at this particular time, when I opened up the door, I heard in the back room her tail hitting the floor really hard. And I knew she was guilty of doing something. That's how they usually are. You know, when they did something wrong, they know they did something wrong. So I called out her name, she didn't come. She stayed in the back room. And I walked into the back room. She was sitting there with a look on the face, because what she had done is she had taken those beads and chewed them to pieces. Because of those beads, you don't play with me as much as you used to play anymore. It's my first introduction to how I have to be careful, and to who I serve, and to be careful to make sure everybody's pleased by my activities. She wasn't very pleased. She chewed those beads to pieces. I had to get new beads. But our relationship was patched. Temporarily. So it's something to add. It's something to add. Find the time, add it. And when you add it, then, as I said, the horizons begin to open up and you begin to look at things from a different perspective, because sometimes the immediate and the pressures can be very overwhelming. And we look for various ways to release ourselves from pressures. But instead of releasing ourselves from pressures by sensual pleasures, which give only temporary satisfaction, a better or superior way, our higher way of releasing ourselves from pressures is by experiencing a higher state of consciousness. Krishna says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasarajam nasopyasva param drishva nivartate. That the embodied soul may restrict himself from this sense enjoyment, although the taste still remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he becomes fixed in consciousness. So chanting Hare Krishna is a step beyond, the higher taste. My spiritual master used to use the example that if you have a child who plays with knives, it's dangerous business. And if you try to take the knife away from the child, it becomes even more dangerous because the child will resist. So when the child starts resisting, it's more dangerous business because he wants the knife. So a better way to release the knife from the hands of the child is to offer the child a nice colorful toy. When the child sees the colorful toy, in order to reach for it, he has to drop the knife. In the same way, my spiritual master said, here, please chant Hare Krishna. Here's something better. And horizons open. On that basis, I've spoken a little bit about why I took up chanting, how I took up chanting, and I would like to invite you, with whatever little time we have left, to chant with me. Generally, the way we chant is I will chant the mantra completely through. First I say a few prayers to my spiritual master, and after those prayers I chant the Hare Krishna mantra all the way through, and then everybody is invited to respond by chanting with me, and that's my invitation for chanting. Okay. So. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare I don't know what the schedule is.
You can continue for like,
Excuse me?
you can continue for 5 more minutes.
Continue for 5 more minutes. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.